Awesome. Well, hello, Krishna. Thank you so much for taking the time today to have this conversation on one of the most renowned and most favorite topic of for everyone, AI. First of all, I'm very grateful for you to joining our podcast. I'd like to start with like, how's your day going so far?
Day is great. It's great weather out here in San Francisco. Lovely Friday. Always, there's a lot of AI conversations happening every day, so I'm excited.
Awesome. No, that's really great. So let's start by letting our audience know who you are. So can you give us a little bit more about your background and what's your journey looks like?
Yeah, of course, and nice to meet everyone virtually here. To all of the audience, and I'm Krishna, and I lead the Agentforce customer engineering team for all of our SMB growth and emerging products within Salesforce. And this is my 10th year here at Salesforce. I'm originally from India. I moved here to the US to actually pursue computer science and AI. It was part of my master's program in Santa Clara University. Before that, I used to be a developer in India. I'm an engineer by heart, quasi pre-sales salesperson by profession. Now, my main job at for this year and potentially the future is how do we make our most attractive and hottest product, which is Agentforce, and take agentic AI to all of our customers. Because I think the whole industry is now trying to figure out how do we not just build a great product around agents, but how do we make it successful and how do we make our customers successful using that product. So that's my job. Day in and day out, that's what I think, sleep, and wake up to.
Well, that's phenomenal, and I'm a huge fan because again, coming from the same background, we are in the same company, and I've been being a huge fan of Agent Force and your work altogether. So that is why I wanted to have this conversation with you to pick your brain on something where how AI can help us in our day-to-day life. So let's dive a little bit more into like something which you can share from like your personal day-to-day where you use AI or where you see that you want to use AI which can
Yeah,
help you or help in your day. Yeah.
yeah, and this comes from one of my customer conversations with one of our biggest customers, Dr. Chopra, who leads Mimit Health. We were talking about how both of us have started to use AI in practically everything we do, just to be more productive in our day, right? So when I want to learn AI. I want to keep updated on AI. And so the first thing I do is I use all of the standard tools like Perplexity. I use Perplexity for creating chains of thought and chains of curiosity because it helps me go down a rabbit hole that I want to go down and learn with. I use Claude to create content because I just love how the way it thinks. I'm also dabbling around creating my own apps and trying to figure out, okay, what is my vibe coding persona outside of work. And so I use Gemini 2.5 Pro. I use Cursor. I'm also one of the first, at least not one of the first, I wouldn't say that. That's not factually accurate. At least in my group, in my company, I was at least one of the first people starting to use Replit Agent, but on a personal capacity. I like doing this and I try to learn. So learning AI has helped me be so much more productive and helps me learn so much more in a short time. And in my personal life, I use Notion. I use Notion Calendar. I use the Notion AI agent to have all of my brain dump organized. And I want to use more of these calendaring tools, but I still never find one amazing one that I want to stick to that helps me stay on top of my calendar. But that's how I think about it. I think the more I use AI on my day-to-day, the more productive it is. Oh, by the way, I love photography as a hobby, and I love all of the generative capabilities in the Adobe suite. that helped me be way more productive in processing my photographs that my wife always complains about.
That's another thing which we share together as well, because I
Yeah.
also love photography, and
Yeah.
the complaint about the wife is the same, I think, all over the world, that they never like the photo their husband clicks.
Yeah.
But amazing. So I think you just gave a great point of how you're leveraging AI as something like your assistant to help in your day-to-day activities or to manage your day-to-day activities.
Mhm.
But we have also seen from people and around the whole world, there are like some misconceptions about AI as well.
Yeah.
So, according to you, do you have what kind of misconceptions do you see or do you hear in the industry when it comes to AI connecting with work life or with the personal usage?
Yeah, I think the first misconception that I hear, and it's a myth, is like AI can do everything. And I'm sure, we've all heard this. Uh, yeah, to a certain extent, it can help you be more productive by doing a little bit of everything you do. However, it cannot replace everything you do. I think the most human thing that we all have today, and we will continue to have, is curiosity, creativity, and innovation. And I don't think AI can replace the way we are curious, the way we are creative, and the new ideas that we can think of. They can help us do all three of those much faster and be very good at all three of those, right? So that's the first misconception I hear, is like, hey, can AI replace a human? Absolutely not. And I'm not in that area of people who think AGI can replace human thinking. The second misconception is like AI is always right. I think in this new world of information overload and this new world of a lot of misinformation that is seeding into the internet, it's more important than ever to always think about, okay, is this true? And how is this true? And that's also one of the reasons I like sources. I like AI tools that actually cite the source of information, because it always helps me confirm my understanding of that information as well. And so the legitimacy of the data, the legitimacy of the answer, AI is, and now we are using the AI, the word AI, kind of like synonymously with generative AI, which is where the world is at. But generative AI has always been prone to hallucination. And so it's more important than ever when we are asking a question. And this is a conversation I have with my parents and my brother, etc. Is like, hey, if you've asked a question to ChatGPT, how do you know it's right? How do you know the response is right? Right? And so knowing where to find or how to um, find the right citation, find the right sources. AI is a tool that will help you be productive. AI will be a tool to help you get information, but it's your job to make sure that the information is right by asking it the right way. So I think that's the second misconception I see.
That is so true, because uh, we cannot just blindly rely on something which we ask and the response we get. We still have to reconfirm like whether this
Yeah.
does make sense or not. And I think you just made a good point about like not everything AI will be able to do. It's kind of really far from there, because you just gave a good example that you're leveraging creativity tools through Adobe
Yeah.
to enhance your pictures, but you still have to hold your own camera and like create your own frame and
Yeah.
create that own subject, right? What I want to click. And we're kind of far from there right now, but it still requires that human creativity over there.
Or even like creatively ask the right question. I think the prompting is kind of like uh, how it's a manifestation of your curiosity.
That
And
is
prompt
that is correct.
engineering is a better way to structure your curiosity in a way that the computer can understand it. And I think all of us now are starting to learn this new language within the language. It's very meta. The language of asking the right question is the most important thing right now. And the more creativity we induce into asking the right question, the more productive we can get using the AI tools as well, right? So I see a lot of like when ChatGPT or like the ChatGPT launched the Studio Ghibli image generation, I was like, sure, this is doing a great job, but how more creative can I get, right? The original founder of Studio Ghibli, he looked at his pencil, his pen as the art, as the way to deliver his art, but everything came from his brain, his curiosity, his creativity. Now, I'm curious to see how he would use ChatGPT to create this net new Studio Ghibli cartoon. I don't know if that's going to happen, but that's how I think about it, right? How can we be more creative in everything we do, even if it is as simple as asking a question, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we're actually heading in the right direction for to understand more about these questions, which is what you just brought up of prompt engineering. So can you give our audience a little bit basics of like, I know asking the right question is something which everyone's going to make sure that they will improve if they want to get more better response from the generative AI. But someone who is in the software world or someone who is planning to get into the software world and connecting with AI, what exactly is prompt engineering and how they can improve building something like that?
Yeah, I think, I mean, if to keep it super simple, I will, like I said, I think prompt engineering is the technique and the science of asking or creating the right prompts, which is basically asking or structuring your right question. It goes back to the movie I, Robot. I don't know if you've seen it. I love that movie. Whenever Will Smith tries to interact with this AI version of the doctor who just passed away, Will Smith asks a bunch of questions, but the doctor is limited in the responses because they are very tailored to the question that the person is asking. So he based that AI bot or like hologram literally just says, "Hey, that is a great question," or "Hey, this is not the right question I want you to ask," right? So that's kind of like how we are programmed to think about it. But there is a formal way of structuring your questions within computer science, within even just using AI as it is today. There's many guides out there. Google has a huge course around prompt engineering. Um, there's one, I think this is the first guide I started following way back when transformers were new and they were coming up. There's some, I think it's called promptengineeringguide.com or something like that. There is one. They've turned their information into a course now. You can take that. I was actually in another panel with someone at Google, and we were joking that Stanford or some of these bigger universities will now start to offer prompt engineering as a degree instead of just as a skill or a course, because that's how it's evolving. Because the way you can think about it is large language models are limited in the amount of data they can get as a question. And that's why we need to structure it, we need to limit it, we need to make sure that it has the right references in the context window. Yes, the context windows are absolutely growing like crazy every day, but still, the context window is a limited scope that a large language model can take. So, a prompt, the better it is defined, the better data that can go into that context window. So yes, there's different ways to do prompt engineering. You can learn all of this online. There's zero shot, there's single shot. Zero shot is when you give it no references and you just plain ask a question with no context, see how the large language model reacts. Single shot, multi-shot is where you give them examples on how you want the response to look like or how to reference some things. So there is a structure and a method to the madness. Uh, Now, is that very important for us? Is the next basic question. I think it is personally, and it's getting way more simpler now because there are things like chain of thought prompting that are built into the models themselves. Like if you think about all of these foundational models, there are reasoning thinking models now that are coming out that have some of this built into it. However, it still requires you as a user to know how to structure my question, and that's what prompt engineering is. So it's important for engineers. Yes, in my opinion, it's important for everyone because we are going to just use AI more and more every day. So why not learn how to ask it the right questions?
That is so true. Like if you have the right tools in your hand, maybe use it properly so that you get the right or like more accurate response around it. That's great. So I think one question before we dive into a little bit more on the industry, but you just brought another question in my mind is like regarding the Stanford or the different courses. During the research, I saw that you've just completed a course with MIT on AI. What's your experience and what was that course about?
It was actually a very good course. It helped me. This was to a little bit of the audience who may not be looking at it. It was a course on building AI products, and it was more so from a business and business value or a enterprise strategy aspect of things that I learned. But it did give me a lot of structure in thinking about how do I apply AI to a real problem with a certain methodology on creating the right solution to the problem. There's two things that I have to do, and we all have to do, Jeet. You know, you are also an SC. For anyone on the consulting side or the sales engineering side or pre-sales solution architecture, some of the times we need to think about, okay, what is the most important problem we can solve, and why is it the most urgent problem to solve? So finding the problem itself is a skill that we need to develop, right? Once we have that, now there is this net new technology that no one has, in depth understanding about, because it's evolving every day. Like if I learn something today, there's going to be a new thing tomorrow. So how do I still put it in a structured application to think about, okay, how do I have a problem? How do I apply this technology within these methodologies to arrive at a solution? So that course really helped me with that. I recommend that course to anyone who wants to learn how to build a solution around AI. Yes, it says building an AI product. It doesn't mean you need to be a product manager. You can be anyone who wants to learn this, and highly recommend it. I, as an aside, I also will say that ever since I finished that course, I've also learned a ton from podcasts and a lot of the conversations that happen in the industry around AI. And so it's always a supplement to how you can keep learning.
Well, I hope our podcast comes in your list as a favorite podcast. But
Perfect.
would love to know what's your favorite way to consume. Like podcast is one, and if you can tell the audience about any of the recent podcasts you have listened or any channels you can uh, give to us, the audience.
Yeah, now most of my podcasts are AI based, but I think even outside of that, I used to read a lot back in the day, but now I somehow my style of consuming information has shifted to podcasts, and I love podcasts. I listen to them. I listen to a lot of them now. For AI, I love the podcast called This Day in AI. It's I think it's by two founders who own this company in Australia. Michael Sharkey is one of them, I think, and they to me, I really like them because they have no fluff in how they think through, how they test these AI models, and it's a great way to add context to all of the news that I'm hearing, right? So when Google Next happened, I was thinking about, okay, how do I apply all of the launches that happened in Google Next to my context, to a business user context, or to a coder? That's the translation that they do very well. So I love that. Outside of that, I love this other podcast by Simon Sinek. It's called A Bit of Optimism. I'm an optimist by heart, and I love. I'm an optimist, but I'm also a realist when it comes to technology and how much is possible today. But I love listening to Simon Sinek as well. Lex Friedman's podcast is always great. It's long,
It's
so I
long.
I don't always get through all of it. But anyway, these are my top three.
No, that's really great, and definitely our listeners might also subscribe to those channels and get more information about the what's new with the AI or what's happening in the technology.
Yeah.
Uh, Great. So I know you have worked in different industries in your professional journey overall. So and you have sort of like experience knowing about how different industry operates, and now the whole world is moving towards AI, and every industry is looking to expand their sort of like capabilities into AI.
Yeah.
So would love to talk for about like a few of the industries, and would love to take your thoughts over there in terms of where AI can play a role. Let's say healthcare.
Yeah.
So what, from your perspective, where do you see right now healthcare is making a big impact with AI, and what's the future looks like?
Yeah, I think healthcare is the biggest industry that can benefit. I mean, I will say there's two lenses I have. I come from India, so the way healthcare works in India is very different from the way healthcare works in the US. And at the same time, the other lens is like how much of AI can we actually apply to healthcare and in which modes, right? My job today has a lot to do with how do I help healthcare organizations transform the way they work from an operational capacity, which is a great way to deploy AI. Again, to quote Dr. Chopra, he runs MIMIT, which is an interventional radiology, surgery, general practice, all of the above. His whole goal is how do I use AI to one just transform the way I work, but also to transform the way healthcare is delivered to patients and make it faster, cheaper, and more value based than what we talk about. Because uh, today access to healthcare is really hard in America because there's so much that goes into like triage. Am I going to the right doctor? Is my insurance going to pay for this? Lot more things, right? In India, access to healthcare is great, but the quality of healthcare is a big, issue that needs improvement. So when I think about this, AI can be deployed in both levels. You have Google that who's innovating incredibly in improving their palm models, which is helping the quality of healthcare. Can I take a look at all of these, MRI scans or X-rays, and can I suggest to the doctors what the actual, diagnosis could be, right? So imagine if there's a very knowledgeable doctor in your university, in your ER, who's helping these physician assistants or the doctors who are a little more junior in their tenure understand the right options to think about, right? That's what Google is trying to solve, and it's amazing. There's actually Salesforce's code gen model was used in some capacity to improve the way we are thinking about genetic modeling, etc., or how to write programs to actually power genetic modeling using AI. And I think actually it may be XGen, not CodeGen, if I'm right. But for us, from an operational capacity, there's a huge swath of opportunities. So I know I work with a customer of ours, DocBuddy, and DocBuddy's whole business is centered on how do I create an AI assistant for the doctor inside the emergency room, so that as they do their surgery, they can just speak to an assistant that will capture all of the details in the surgery, translate everything in terms of what's showing in the scan to the surgery to the report, what kind of post-operative therapies they need, all of that stuff. So they have a cool assistant. We work with them. Mimit, we work to operationalize their entire business. And so, yeah, I mean, I think there's a huge opportunity. We also have one of our biggest customers of Agentforce is Prasina Health, and Prasina is they deliver diabetes care, and they are using AI to automate their patient intake to do that initial triage. Is that what type of diabetes does this patient have? Where they're located? What is their initial, symptoms? All of that fun stuff. So, like I said, quality of healthcare is one, but also operationalizing healthcare is the other. I think the operationalizing healthcare is a now problem that we can solve today with the existing AI tools we have. Quality of healthcare is an evolving area right now.
That is so true, and you just gave me another thought. Like back in the day, in my previous job, I used to sell mini motors, and it
Yeah.
goes to robotic applications. And we used to work with a company called Intuitive Surgical, who makes like big robots for
Amazing.
surgeons to help them out during the surgery. It's still operated by the doctors, but they were managed like in a way that a robot with like 6 hands doing the surgery. And now
Yeah.
I think the future of that robot is more like understanding and learning from that surgeon, not replacing the surgeon for sure, but
Correct.
helping that surgeon as an assistant to make sure the surgery is happening with the right pace.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
That's so cool. One other industry where I want to pick your brain is, because that's again just like healthcare, which is very important. Health, and the next is health is wealth. So the financial
Yeah.
industry. So what's your take there? Like how are financial industries thinking? Because money is a very sensitive thing, and everyone wants to be secured in that way that it's not in the wrong hands of AI. But what are your thoughts? Like, where is it evolving?
Yeah, I think financial financial organizations
Yeah.
are always thinking about high accuracy or high trust, right? Two are
Hmm.
those two of them are, in my opinion, two distinct ways to look at the technology, right? And accuracy definitely requires some sort of a human intervention that helps makes the decision or the final sign off the right, you know, looking at what the AI has generated and say, okay, this makes sense and this is right because this is this way. Trust is the other important piece. Is like, hey, how am I accessing all of this data in the most secure way possible, or am I really thinking about accessing data that is most relevant in the right time in the right way without having to move things to different places. Both of them are really important in my conversations with my financial tech customers. Now, the accuracy piece is really important because there's many one-off tools that will say, hey, why don't you give me all of the data and I'm going to push it to a large language model and get it to synthesize something, and then I'll spit back a response that you can integrate over API. It's good, but again, it doesn't solve the bigger problem. The bigger problem that most of the industries or regulated industries deals with is, where is the data, how is the data being accessed, and is there some level of governance and security around that data? And if it's over an API, that automatically decouples the risk management from the technology itself. We don't believe in that. We think that technology and the management of the governance of the data needs to live together, especially for regulated industries. And that's how we've built our platform. Is you can basically connect any of the main financial data repositories to Salesforce, and then you can build these AI capabilities on top of that. That helps with both accuracy and trust. Accuracy because we have a reasoning model that sits around all of that data, that's looking at the data not just for retrieval purposes but also for reasoning. So we have that helps us reason and look at patterns and make sure we are making the right decision even the first time. If not, we still are inside that secure layer where all of this can be presented in a semi-autonomous way to a wealth manager, to a banker inside or an investment banker, and have them take the decisions, right? Plus, we provide, when it comes to the trust piece, the same capabilities also have additional ways to look at, like where is this data? How is it managed? Is it secure? Like, is it SOX compliant? Is it SOC 2 compliant? Is it stored over 10 years, right? And is it encrypted and is the PII, PHI used in the right way without being just shared to a large language model? So we tackle both of these concepts together, but they need to be evaluated separately. And when I suggest and when I talk to or I consult with many of our customers, they don't look at them separately. They don't even look at both of them. They look at one or the other,
One of
right?
them.
So at least that's how I think about it.
No, that's pretty good. Couple of last questions before we wrap it up here. So one is, I know you are pretty much well aware where AI is going, and you're pretty much like up to date with what's happening in the AI
I try to
technology.
be. I
So
try to be.
so where exactly, what's next from here? So like we are all like experiencing generative AI agents. It's all over the world. But where is it going next in the 2 to 3 years?
I mean, the way I think about it is there's a lot of very interesting innovations happening. I try to keep up, but again, I'm not. There's the day job and the night job. The day job is to make my product successful, but the night job is to stay aware of what's going on in the industry. I think, and this is where I see this all heading is. I think there will be a day where SaaS, as its all of the SaaS applications, kind of transform into agents. And so somebody in procurement or somebody in IT will be looking at, hey, how in the last 1 month, which agent did I use the most? Is it NetApp? Was it Salesforce? Was it, HubSpot? And basically pay the bills for that, like a utility, right? And I think that's the model. And then what happens then is, previously when SaaS was the hottest thing in the internet, all of the SaaS applications talk to each other through an API. Now we are seeing this agent interoperability that's coming up, and two of the frameworks that are already here, one that I think Cisco, LangChain, and others are building. I saw an article on it. It's going to come out soon. Is agent to agent interoperability. So I think from a business software standpoint or a SaaS standpoint, that's where the world is heading. And I think that makes sense. I think that is way more useful for consumers of this technology, because now you have more options, you have more choice, but at the same, and it helps all these agent companies now compete with each other, but also work with each other. Like A2A is a great example of an interoperability framework that Google launched. Salesforce is part of one of the cohorts for that. Microsoft just joined that cohort as well, which is very interesting to me, because Microsoft could have easily said, "Hey, let me go and build out my own interoperability
Something
framework,"
along.
but they didn't, which is what we are looking at in terms of how all of technology companies are rallying around a common technology. I think, and I was not around when this happened with the internet, but if I make a calculated guess, this is also what happened around the internet. It's like, how can we all align with each other on using this as a common technology? So for me, AI is the new internet. And so that's how I think about it. So when I think about it in my consumer life, so I told you about the business, how the business software is changing. In consumer life, I'm trying to think about every repetitive thing that I have to do, or every multi-step thinking aspect of what I have to do. I try to replace those with AI and agents. And it's been a little bit of challenge, because there's many platforms out there, but and not everything works in the same way. Like, for example, I was thinking about, hey, what if I can create a simple website for my dad when I go to India? And the first thing I said is, like, let me not go and write my own HTML page. Can I ask an agent to do it? And I looked at Lovable. Lovable is a great platform that I'm playing around with. But again, some of this misses the context, this misses the data. So from a consumer standpoint, I also have to think about, okay, how much of actual data about my dad, about, like, do I need to feed this AI model, or can I just keep it out, right? Then I'm thinking about, okay, how do I do my taxes using AI? Can I deploy a small model in my computer and have it think through all of these different things I want it to think through? So there's a lot going on. AGI is the biggest thing that the whole industry is waiting for or looking forward to, and all of the foundational models are trying to work towards it. I think it's a little further away. I think even if it comes out, I don't think people will be ready to trust it.
Yeah.
It's like it's not, I wouldn't go far as to say it's like the Terminator, but you still have a lot of trust you need to build with that kind of a technology that doesn't exist. So I'm a realist in that sense. I don't try to get hyped up about AGI. I want to see how we can use AI in our everyday lives, and I think in the future we'll have automated. Like we already have automatic cars here in SF, and we ride them through Waymo. It's awesome every day. I prefer Waymos more than Lyft or Uber. But I think that's the new norm, though, right? And I think that's how we are thinking about it. Can I have a fully autonomous robot in my kitchen that will make me dal or biryani when I say it, right? It won't make it as good as I do, but that's the future. Can it make it half as good?
Absolutely. I like the second part where when a robot can make a biryani, because that takes almost 2 to 3 hours of your
I
time.
know, right?
And I'll
Exactly.
definitely take it if I can just do the masala and just have it chop and cook everything for me. No, but wonderful. Thank you so much, Krishna, for your time today. You gave us so many good advice and tips on how AI can be leveraged in a fun way rather than being more curious about like, will it gonna take my job or what it's
Yeah.
gonna happen. But if we use as a tool to help us in our day-to-day work or even in our personal life, that can be huge. And we are evolving with it. So I think it's going to learn more from our habits. And eventually, we definitely will have something in our kitchen to help us out.
Hopefully. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris,
Thank you, Jeet. Thank you for having me on this podcast.
yeah, thank you so much. And we'll definitely have some more conversation down the road when AI pretty much evolve in that area.
I know, I love it. Maybe we can replace ourselves with our digital twins, and we can have this podcast.
Exactly. That sounds fun. Krishna, thank you so much once again, and we'll talk soon.
All right, thank you, Jeet.
Thank you. Bye.